Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you who have taken the time out of your day to join us. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Jarryd Jacklin. I'm a private wealth manager for the Carrick Group and based in Mauritius. At Carrick, we are a leading and multi-award-winning offshore private wealth management company, where we bring a multitude of holistic financial, estate and succession planning, tax-efficient planning and investment management solutions, all together under one umbrella. But with me today are Jonny Conran, partner at Mews, and Sophia Kazmi, an international mortgage specialist for the Maidwell Group, whose expertise makes international mortgages for our clients in Africa a seamless and pleasant process. We will be covering some key topics, such as, is now a sensible time for clients throughout Africa to invest in UK property? How can we do this by means of outright purchasing or financing? And we'll also cover an incredible development that is currently exclusive to Carrick clients only. We will also have a Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to type in any questions that you have in the chat box on the right-hand side during the course of the presentation. And time dependent, we'll go through as many as we can at the end with Jonny and Sophia. So that's it from me. Jonny, Sophia, thanks again for joining. And Jonny, I'll hand straight over to you.
Thank you very much, Jarryd. Thank you for the introduction. As Jarryd mentioned, my name is Jonny Conran and I'm a partner of Mews. And what I'm going to start with doing is giving you a bit of a history about us as a business, who we are, and how long we've been around. So we've been working in the property development business in the UK for 12 years now. The company was founded by Andy Foote, who is a well-known name in the property world in the UK. And he's been a part of that industry for the last 30 years, as well as other businesses around the world. And one of the things before I come on to the actual property itself is that we get asked a lot is about the name. Where did the name Mews come from? It's not, your typical property name. And so one thing, it's a story that we tell, which is a sad story but a relevant story nonetheless, is that Andy has, as I said, been part of many successful businesses, predominantly in the real estate world. But his most successful endeavour that he will always tell you is what you see on your screen now, is the brain tumour charity. And the brain tumour charity you may recognise. It's the largest brain tumour charity in the world, and Andy started that about 20 years ago. Because sadly his son Joseph was diagnosed with a brain tumour at age 3 and passed away at age 9. At that moment, Andy wanted to change that situation for other people, and he started the charity and hence put it in Joseph's name initially, the Joseph Foote Trust, and today we know it as the Brain Tumour Charity. So this is Andy's swan song as a business. It's the final business that he's going to be a part of, and around the world he has different offices, different homes, different entities named after Joseph, and our office in the UK is called Mews. It's a Mews house in the centre of Birmingham, and so to give legacy to Andy, but also to Joseph, we presented the idea that we would be named after the office, which he was delighted with. So that gives some context as to why it's not your most conventional of name for a property business. To reflect on our history, so important that you're dealing with a company that has a track record of not only selling property, but importantly delivering property. This is the crux. You find a lot of agents in the market that are selling properties on behalf of developers that perhaps have never actually completed a site. And we've delivered 6,500 units so far, £854 million worth of property. We've delivered it all in the UK. It's in the entirety of our focus is in the UK. And we have 2,500 clients around the world. You'll notice a disparity between that 2.5 and 6.5, those two numbers. And what that shows you is that we have a big retention of clients. So a lot of our clients invest with us and then invest with us again down in the future. And look, that's not just entirely because of the actual developments themselves. It's because of the process involved. And this is really important, particularly I'm sure that most, if not all of you are based overseas on this call. When you're 3,000 miles away or 6,000 miles away from the development itself, buying a property can be pretty stressful. And it's stressful enough if you're in the same country, but when you're overseas, you need your hand held from a legal perspective. Who's going to be the correct people to represent me? From a mortgage perspective, how am I going to tackle that? Obviously, Sophia will tell us about that later. From a rental perspective, how am I going to rent my property out when I'm 3,000 miles away? All of these things we handle ourselves at Joseph Mews. We have obviously our headquarters in the UK, and from that office, we manage every single side. We introduce you to the correct mortgage brokers, Sophia. We introduce you to the agents on the ground that are going to rent your property, market your property, and then obviously manage it as well. So it doesn't matter if you've never been to the UK, if you don't plan on going to the UK, we handle everything remotely and we do it every day. So you're not the first person that's going to invest from overseas. We do it every day, and in particular in Africa, which is as a continent, you know, one of our biggest markets. So just to give you some ideas of what we build and the kind of developments that we're a part of. Our emphasis with Joseph Mews is to build the best developments in any given area. And the reason that we do that is because those are the developments and the investments that stand the test of time. If you have the best development in the center of that location, in the pole position, as we refer to it as, then you know that you're always going to rent your property. And that is the cornerstone of property investment, is having a tenant. If you don't have a tenant and it's empty, then it's not doing anything for you, particularly if you're taking a mortgage. Then you don't have an ability to pay it off via the person renting it. So it's really important to constantly have demand, and that's why we want to build special property, not your generic new build apartments. We want to do something special, and this is one of them that we sold out in the summer. It's from a developer called Consortia, and it was a great success. We've sold it out 6 months ahead of completion, yeah, it's been a great success story. We actually this development in the UK Property Awards 2 weeks ago, it won 3 first place prizes, and one of them included the best development over 20 units in the whole of the UK. So that gives you the idea of the caliber of what we're working with. Again, as I mentioned, I'm based between the UK and Dubai, and from there we facilitate South Africa and the wider continent, Singapore, or in Hong Kong as well. So, as I mentioned, all of our developments and our head office is in the UK, but we have clients all over the world. So just to come on to our development partners. So the development that Jarryd mentioned earlier is a development by Seven Capital. So to introduce Seven Capital, as I said, we only work with the most due diligent and proven developers in the market, and Seven Capital is certainly that. They were started in 2009. They now have a portfolio of £2.1 billion. And they're a huge beast. They have residential developments, commercial developments. They have a hotel chain, the Park Regis, which you may know, which is all around the world. They're now in the UK, the market leader in terms of their portfolio at their price point. So at that sort of £250,000 to £300,000 mark, they're the market leader in the UK. So they're, as I say, as due diligent and trustworthy as you can imagine from a developer, and one of the most proven in the market. A little bit more about the developments. These are some that we've done. Before I come on to the actual project itself, just to give you a sort of generic overview about where the market is now and what we can expect. We've all been through a strange few years. Every market has been affected with the obvious happenings. But if we look further than that and we look at history and what these kind of huge moments mean to the market, the UK is the most invested market in the world. From foreign investment, it's more than the US, it's more than Canada, it's more than Germany. UK is #1. And this graph illustrates why. Because you can trust it in terms of its history, that no matter what happens and dips, we look at 08, 09 as an obvious comparable, the recession that hit us then. Did it get affected? Absolutely, we had a dip. But look at where we are today. The one thing you can rely on with the UK is its resilience, because the fundamentals are incredibly strong. Commercially, you have some of the biggest businesses in the world based there. Education, you have some of the best schooling universities in the world, in the country. Politically, stable is probably the wrong word to use at the moment, but it's a safe political environment, is that you know that things like due diligence are always going to be carried out, and you're protected in that sense. So the big driver for the UK is its undersupply. There is not enough property. It's well documented. You Google it, for the last 10 years, the UK has 120,000 deficit. It's apparently going up to 250,000 deficit. We don't have enough homes. So we're a small island, millions of people, and not enough property. And that demand is what keeps the market growing and keeps the prices rising. So people make the mistake of trying to time the market. I need to wait, maybe there's going to be a dip. Property isn't a short-term investment. If you're looking at investing in something that's going to give you a return in 2 years and then you're going to wash your hands with it, property isn't the investment for you. This is a mid to long-term investment. And what the UK market has consistently shown us is that on a 12-year average, property prices double. And that's what your focus should be, is that in 12 to 15 years time, the asset that I put my money into and I took a mortgage, I'm paying off, and the asset is worth double in that amount of time. And that's what the UK market does time and time again, and will continue to do so. So look, the exchange rate, and this is, you know, obviously ever changing, but there's a real opportunity for our clients that are earning currency, earning the dollar or any currency pegged to the dollar, as we are in Dubai and in Hong Kong. This obviously brings a massive opportunity. You know, getting a 20% discount just based on FX is huge in a market that you know you can trust. So we've seen, since the pound hit its all-time low a couple of weeks back, we've been as busy overseas as I can remember. And that shows people's faith in the market, and it shows the opportunity that we possess now. Put your money and your deposit down. Rather than burning a hole in your pocket in the bank, you can put it into an asset that, as we've shown you, is going to increase over a 10-year period of time, double, if not nearly double. And also to get a head start just on the FX over anybody that's buying in the UK is obviously a huge opportunity now. So really recommended to make the most of that, as we know that with everything changing and more stability, obviously the pound will increase. So giving you examples, stamp duty, we're in a position now where obviously there's a slight saving. It's not a huge saving, but it's a saving nonetheless. You're looking at about £2,500. So there's an opportunity there. That's obviously for properties that are complete now. This is quite fluid, these changes, and you know, especially with the political changes, we don't know how that is going to change over the coming months, but as we stand today, there is still that opportunity for £2,500 saving on your stamp duty as well. So that combined is important. Inflation, mortgage interest rates. I'm going to leave mortgage interest rates to Sophia. She's going to tell us a little bit more about that. Inflation and interest rates are an interesting concept when it comes to real estate investment, because they often encourage people to invest. Inflation obviously drives people to the market to put their money down into something like a home. It obviously makes sense. And from an interest rate perspective, when interest rates rise, what happens is people don't buy property that they're going to live in. What happens then is they rent property. So what we're seeing in the UK now, we had an agent in Birmingham telling us that there's 5 people to 1 apartment in the city centre now. 5 people to 1 apartment. So apartments that are being showcased, a 1-bedroom apartment at £1,000 a month, is renting for £1,200 a month. Normally we used to go down and meet at £950. We're now going up. People are challenging each other for the ability to rent a property, because there just isn't enough property. And now with interest rates going up, it's great. I'm a landlord myself in the UK. I've just changed my rental, and it's gone up quite dramatically and a lot higher than I had ever imagined. So with that is an opportunity. Rental part, especially with higher interest rates, when you have a higher rental return, obviously that offsets that sort of negative cash flow. But as I say, let Sophia talk to you more on that. So I'm now going to talk to you more about a specific investment case that we have. We talk about the UK generically as a market, but our job at Joseph Mews is we buy land and we build developments in areas that we perceive are going to be even greater than that growth. Regeneration areas, where there's institutional investment, where there's transport links that are changing, whatever these reasons might be. And one of those places is a place called Bracknell, and I'm going to go into why we've chosen there. Just to show you, to skip ahead, sorry. For those of you that don't know where Bracknell is, obvious reference point, Heathrow Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. London's main airport is 20 minutes away. So 20 minutes to the west, you'll find Bracknell. Ascot, many of you may know, Royal Ascot, the horse racing, very affluent area, beautiful part of the country. Windsor has been pretty topical in recent weeks. That's only 15 minutes away. So it's in a beautiful part of the UK. It's less than an hour to London. It's connected on the train directly into Paddington. It's, as I say, 20 minutes from Heathrow. On the roads, you can get north, you can get west, east. It's really well connected on the M4. So it's a really prime location in an affluent, beautiful part of the countryside. But that is not why we are investing there. Sorry. Bear with me. So the reason that we are choosing to invest in Bracknell is mainly to do with the commercial commitment that we find in the town. So all of us will recognize, if not all, most of these names on your screen. And these employers are based in the center of Bracknell. So Bracknell is referred to as the UK Silicon Valley. So your Microsoft, Fujitsu's, HP, General Electric, they are headquartered in Bracknell. These are management and director roles predominantly. So they're high salaries, but the problem that Bracknell has had, because this is new, this commercial commitment is fairly new, is that the property hasn't been reciprocated yet. That demand from high earners hasn't been reciprocated. And that's what Seven Capital are addressing with their development that's completing next year. So there's thousands and thousands of jobs in a small town in a beautiful part of the UK, and well connected to London and the rest of the country. So you can see why it makes sense commercially for these businesses, and obviously why it would make sense for you as an investment. So to go forward now, we talked about the location. The big part, obviously, that's come off the back of this commercial commitment is regeneration. So this small town has received £770 million worth of investment. That's come from Schroeder UK and Legal in General. And it's to change the concept of Bracknell as a place not only that you work and you leave, is a place that you live as well. So those photos you see on the screen now are a place called the Lexicon Centre. It's a beautiful shopping centre right in the centre of Bracknell. It completed a couple of years ago. It has bars, restaurants, high-end shops, supermarkets, cinema, and it's adding that amenity to Bracknell. So not only can you work here, you can live here, you have the amenity. And then the next question is, where's the property? And that's where, as I said, we're addressing with Seven Capital. So in terms of where we are in this regeneration, something exciting within Bracknell is that the top left screen is where we are now. And if you look at the bottom screen, bottom right screen, this is going on until 2032. So for the next 10 years, this £770 million worth of investment is being rolled out, and the infrastructure is changing, the aesthetic is changing, the amenities are changing. So what's going to happen with that? Demand goes up. What happens when demand goes up? Prices go up. So Seven Capital have been lucky enough with their foresight, which they're famous for in the UK, is to buy the pole position, the #1 position within Bracknell before all of this happens. So the position of this development, which I'm going to show you, is 100 meters away from that shopping centre, and it's 25 seconds away from the train station. It's the #1 location within Bracknell, and Seven Capital managed to get ahead of the game a few years ago. So as I said, demand obviously is increased, and the projections from your PLCs are obviously incredibly favourable to Bracknell. The economy is growing 2.5 times faster than the wider economy. There's a lot happening, and this small town is getting the exposure that it deserves, and it is natural that it's going to take place over the coming 10 years when that's all rolled out. So to talk to you about the actual opportunity itself that Jarryd had mentioned earlier that we have with Carrick, it's called the Grand Exchange. And it is comprised of 2 blocks, Block A and Block B. It's a privately gated area, and it has a communal garden within the centre. Now, as I told you, Seven Capital are the market leader in the UK. They've delivered thousands of apartments around the UK in their history. This is going to be their flagship development. And the reason it's going to be their flagship development is because of what it possesses. So in terms of this lifestyle, and again, I'm skipping forward, but to talk about what it possesses in terms of amenity, the world that we live in, and quite frankly live, and the apartments we live in or houses we live in, the demand has changed in the last couple of years. And how has it changed? Like a lot of us have done over the last couple of years, and like some of you are probably doing now, we're sat at our kitchen table and that's where we work, because everybody in London, my friends, are all working in the city there, and at least 2 days a week they're working from home. So that concept of home working is with us forever, whether we like it, whether we don't like it. It's inevitability, and it makes sense commercially for businesses. So that's going to happen. So what Seven Capital had a bit of luck with, actually, because they planned this pre-COVID, and I'm sure they weren't part of COVID, but it kind of it happened strangely in terms of their timing, that they had decided to build this kind of new age of living in Bracknell because of the tech worker. One thing our research told us, that tech workers, even pre-COVID, were working from home. So in terms of the actual development itself, what you have in the Grand Exchange is endless amenity. You have a 24-hour concierge and reception, like a 5-star hotel. You have a gym. You have 2 spa rooms. You have a private dining room. You have a garden room, which is a lounge room. And incredibly relevant is the co-working hub. So rather than sitting at your kitchen table, you can get in a lift, you can go downstairs, and you have a fully functional workspace within your development. Seven Capital are the first people to deliver this in the UK. Obviously, developers will get the trend, but Seven Capital were lucky from obviously designing this before, which means that this is completing next year in May, but we're already going to have these amenities. So if you wanted this kind of style of property in the UK now, the only place you will find it is in the centre of London, and you're paying well over £1 million. Whereas, as we've seen from previous slides here, as we've seen from previous slides, with the Grand Exchange, we're starting at £289,000 for a 1-bed in there. So to go back to this, as mentioned, 290,000 gets you a 1-bed, and then 2 beds start at about £350,000. So the price point to be less than an hour from London, with all of these incredible amenities, connected to 20 minutes from Heathrow in a beautiful part of the countryside, you know, not that city living, for £290,000 is a game changer in the UK. And there's going to be a lot of PR around this. It's going to be in a lot of the newspapers that Seven Capital are, as I say, the pioneers of this new age. So this is the development. As Jarryd said, we've got some units remaining in here that we've just been given access to, that are exclusive just for clients of Carrick because of our partnership. So it's a great opportunity to be a part of something that completes pretty soon. You know, as I mentioned, this is going to be handing over. People are going to be living in there from May next year. So relevant to Sophia and what she's going to tell you, that would be now would be the time to start considering your mortgage options as well on here. To give you some perspective on here, if you look at the bottom left of your screen where you see BSRIA and GTT, on that roundabout, that is where the Grand Exchange is located. So you're walking to 3M, HP, Fujitsu, all of these big jobs are walking distance. The station, as you see, is right next door, and the Lexicon Centre is 100 metres away where all of your amenities are. So it's pole position within the town centre. I'm not going to go over this in too much detail, and what I'd encourage you is, after this meeting, is to via Carrick, obviously set up a one-to-one meeting with me, because and Sophia for that matter, because everyone's case is individual, and the inputs that we put on here are based on your demands, whether you want a 70% mortgage, whether you want a 50% mortgage, whether you want interest only, whether you want a repayment mortgage. But what it shows you is, over a 15-year period, what your cash position is based on your investment structure. And all of the projections for growth are based from the PLCs, from all of the reports. All of the costs, every single penny that you're going to have to spend, will be inputted into these cash flows, from your solicitor fees to your mortgage fees to service charges. All of these kind of things are incorporated into these cash flows, and we can go over them on a one-to-one basis based on your circumstances and based on what you've told Sophia and what she tells you your options are. So, as I say, would encourage to book these one-to-one meetings, and we can go over them in slightly more detail. So we've been through these on the Grand Exchange. Just lastly, look, it's not the only development we have. We have developments all over the UK at the moment. The Grand Exchange is a focus of ours. As I say, it's the flagship development of the biggest developer in the UK. So it's really exciting to have these units, especially the ones that are exclusive to Jarryd and to Carrick. But we do have other options. If that price point doesn't work for you, then we do have different price points around the UK. And the last one to show you, Consortia, the developer I mentioned that won all of those awards a couple of weeks ago, they have a new launch that we are excited to be launching with Carrick as well. And this development is in the centre of Birmingham. So city centre Birmingham, the second city in the UK. There's an area called the Jewellery Quarter. It's the #1 area within the city. It's where everybody wants to live. And within the Jewellery Quarter is St Paul's Square, which is a beautiful square with a church in the middle. It's the #1 spot that you can live in Birmingham. And we have this incredible grade listed building that we're converting into 16 apartments, just 16. It's going to be the most exclusive development within the centre of the UK's second city. So as I say, we're about to launch this as well. Similar sort of price point, 270,000 starting, but only 16 units. And yeah, we're launching that at the end of this week and beginning of next. So as I say, we talked about Bracknell. I'm not going to go into that detail. Birmingham is constantly referred to as #1 or #2 in terms of rental growth, in terms of capital growth, in terms of rentability. By all the PLCs, Birmingham is either #1 or #2 in all of them. So it's a great opportunity as well. And again, you know, it shows Joseph Mews, our commitment is to these regeneration areas and areas where your growth is going to be even higher than what we the national average. And I think that is, oh, sorry, Sophia. I think that is it from me. And I'm now going to hand you over to Sophia. We've worked with Sophia for probably 8 years now. She's fantastic and represents us well. And we love working with her because she's always there to communicate. She deals with you on an individual basis, and she's found some of the best products in the market for all of our clients, whether you're based in South Africa, Nigeria, wherever you are, she finds options. So you're in good hands. And I'll hand over to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonny. Thank you very much. So as Jonny has mentioned, we're Maidwell Group. So we are an international mortgage brokerage based out here in Dubai, but we also have a presence with brokers in the UK as well. I'm just going to start off with a brief video introducing you to us and a little bit more about our services, and then we'll go on to tell you a bit more about us and how we can help you this afternoon. Thank you. Yep. Thank you very much. So I hope what you've gathered from that so far is that we are an international brokerage and we can help clients in a range of different scenarios, regardless of what sort of financing you are looking for. But in short, we pride ourselves on offering the best mortgage service. What do we mean by that? Well, we offer a bespoke service to all of our clients with a holistic approach. We have a team of experienced brokers, both here and in the UK. We offer a stress-free solution because we know that buying a property can be one of the most stressful things you do. And finally, we work together with you as a team to ensure that the process is as smooth and efficient as possible. So just to begin with bespoke, What we mean is we aren't a panel brokerage. We have access to over 750 lenders globally. So essentially what that means is you've probably heard of the likes of HSBC or NatWest perhaps in the UK. And if you were to approach those banks, you can certainly or perhaps get a mortgage from them. But what you weren't aware of perhaps is that Halifax down the road may have been able to offer you a more competitive product. Or similarly, if you were to go onto a compare the market website, you can see some of the products that are available there. But again, it won't be a bespoke and tailored solution for you. So with Maidwell Group, we have access to over 750 lenders across the globe. And that ranges from private banks across Europe and in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. And then we also work with private equity firms and funds for some of the more niche inquiries we get and perhaps more complicated cases. And with that, we have also seen clients from a range of different experience backgrounds and so on. So these are some of the sort of mortgages that we're able to arrange. So for many of you this afternoon, you're looking at a buy-to-let investment in the UK for the reasons that Jonny has mentioned. But then we can also help with clients who are perhaps high net worth, ultra high net worth clients who perhaps have a little bit more of a complicated financial circumstances and a little bit more complex scenarios. We can also help with development finance across the globe. And then, as you saw from the video as well, we can also help with luxury asset financing, for example, yachts and jets as well. And just to go on to experience, so we have a team with over 100 years worth of combined experience in the financial services industry. So with that, we've seen clients from a range of different scenarios, whether you are a foreign national purchasing your first property in the UK and perhaps don't yet have a footprint in the UK, and that includes not yet even having a UK bank account, or perhaps you've just started a new job and don't yet have pay slips, or maybe if you're retired and don't yet have a fixed income. Whatever it might be, we've helped clients with a range of different scenarios, and with the network of lenders that we have across the globe, we're able to find a solution for you. And on that, we have arranged financing for clients across the globe. I would say 80% of the stuff that we do and the mortgages that we arrange are in the UK for the reasons that Jonny has mentioned. The UK remains that stable economy. It remains where properties double, and it's that stable investment where people want to put their money. In addition to that, though, we have arranged financing across the Caribbean in places like the Bahamas, St. Bart's, across Europe in places like Marbella in the Balearics and Monaco for tax reasons, and across the UAE and Europe in general. We understand, as Jonny mentioned again, that purchasing a property can be one of the most stressful things that you do. So we ensure to try and make the process as smooth and stress-free as possible. So in addition to arranging the mortgage for you, which we of course will manage throughout application all the way through to completion, we also offer a range of ancillary services to help and support the mortgage along the way. So these are the ancillary services that we can offer with the network that we have across Europe, across the globe, and in the UK as well. And I suppose the best way will be to give you an example. So we recently had a client who was based in South Africa who was looking at purchasing their first buy-to-let property in the UK, but with a view to build a portfolio of properties over the next 10 years. And they wanted to understand what would be the best tax-efficient way in doing so. And what we did was we introduced them to a tax advisor in the UK who was able to then help them in terms of setting up a UK limited company, which we then helped with our connections in the UK. They were also able to gain tax advice and legal advice from there. Later on, we then assisted with insurance again through our network. And then finally, we were also able to help them with the FX transfer from South African Rand to GBP. And the last bit I want to touch on is the team. Now, we pride ourselves on the strength of our team. And not only the strength of our team, but we also work together with you as a team to ensure that the process is as smooth and stress-free and efficient as possible, and that you do end up with your property at the end of it. We work together with you, and we support you. Once we've had our initial conversation with you, we then approach those relevant banks and package the application in a way which is attractive to those banks in order to make that application for you successful. So in terms of our process, our promise to you is that once you are introduced to us from whether it's the team at Carrick or whoever it might be, we will then aim to come back to you within the space of 1 hour. Once we then had that initial conversation with you, we will essentially grab some more information from you in terms of what you're looking for in terms of the mortgage, a bit more about your financing, and overall what your requirements are. We will then come back to you with a set of indicative terms, which then enables you to have a bit more of an understanding as to what the mortgage is going to look like, what the monthly payments are going to look like, and so on, which then enables you to proceed with the property and finalise which one you're going to buy, and so on. The next step is to then submit an application to the bank, at which point we will liaise with you in order to collect all the supporting documentation and package that application in a way that it is successful and you can complete on your mortgage. Now, that process from application to completion usually takes on average between 6 to 8 weeks. And throughout that point, we will liaise with all of the parties involved. So the bank, the valuers. We work closely with the valuers in the UK, so we're able to at times push them, especially as we get towards Christmas. Sometimes they can work a little bit slower. So we work quite closely with all of the parties involved, the lawyers as well, to ensure that everything is done in time. Throughout this whole process, you will have a dedicated broker at Maidwell Group. For anyone this evening, this afternoon, I will be your point of contact, and I will be your main point of contact throughout your process and throughout your journey with Maidwell Group. All of our brokers are fully qualified up to FCA standard. I myself am fully qualified and regulated by the FCA, and you can also find me on the FCA register. And we pride ourselves on the flexible working hours that we work, and that is because we have clients, as you saw, clients based globally, and institutions that we work with and connections that we have based across the globe. And so we understand that we need to have those flexible working hours. So we meet clients on weekends, late nights for clients who are based in Africa, in Europe, in the US, in order to meet those deadlines. I'm just going to go on to sort of 4 examples of some cases that we have completed on recently, just to give you an idea of some of the terms that are available currently in the market. So our first case study was for a client who was purchasing quite simply a residential property in the UK. Now they were looking at purchasing a property for £177,000. They were employed in the UK, and they were looking for a loan to value of 70%. We were able to secure them a rate of 3.26% fixed for 25 years. Now this product was suitable for this client, and it was ideal for them because they didn't have any plan as of yet to move from this property. So they wanted the security that their repayments weren't going to change over the next 25 years. However, should their plans have changed, they were able to, in fact, move this product over onto a new property. So this is known as a portable mortgage in the UK. So you can port this mortgage from one property onto another. Now, the second case study was for a client who was looking at buying a buy-to-let in the UK. And they are a South African expat in the UAE employed here. They were looking at purchasing an investment property for £350,000, and we were able to secure them a mortgage of 75% loan to value at a rate of 5.24% fixed for 5 years. So after the monthly repayments were made to the lender, they were making a net profit of £504 a month. Now, for many of you who might consider purchasing a property perhaps in cash as opposed to with a mortgage, this is a prime example. So this client here, they were yielding, had they have purchased the property with cash, they would have been yielding around 5%, 5.5% per annum. However, with the mortgage, they opted for an interest-only mortgage as well, which is essentially they were purely paying interest on the loan amount, and they had just put that 25% deposit into the property, and then the remaining 75% was financed from the bank. That meant that as a result, their yield was in fact 10.5% on around about for purchasing the property on a 75% loan to value mortgage and maintaining an interest-only facility. That also enabled them to build a portfolio as well, as they want to buy a few properties in the UK over the next couple of years. So as opposed to putting all their equity into one property, they're able to diversify and spread their investments as well. Now, my third example was for a client who was looking at buying 2 investment properties together in Birmingham. Now, they were a Nigerian passport holder based in Nigeria and employed by a firm. The total property values were £390,000, and they were looking for a loan to value of 65% against the 2 properties. So we were able to achieve them a loan amount of £253,500. We were able to secure them a rate of 3.15 plus the base rate. And this product was ideal for this client as well because there was no early redemption penalty. So you'll often find that with variable rates in the UK, the early redemption penalties are usually less, if any. Early redemption penalties are essentially, should you pay back the mortgage earlier than the term, you may pay a penalty to the lender for redeeming that mortgage early. However, with this bank, they didn't actually have any penalties in doing so, which this client actually wanted. They liked the flexibility that they could pay off the mortgage early should they wish to do so. And my final example is for a client who is based in the UK, so looking at buying a buy-to-let in the UK. They're a British expat in Mauritius, however, they were retired. So they came to us quite frustrated after speaking to a couple of brokers in the UK, and they weren't able to find a solution for them, either because they weren't based in the UK or perhaps because they didn't have a fixed income. Now, we were able to secure them a mortgage. So they're looking at a property value of £399,950, so just under £400,000. And we were able to secure them a loan to value of 75% against the property. The rate was at a 2-year discounted rate of 4.19%. And after the monthly mortgage repayments were made, they were making a profit of £803 a month. Again, another reason why they opted to go for the to go with a mortgage. And these clients also went for the interest-only facility. Their plan was to then sell the property and repay it that way. And so they just went on to an interest-only facility. So I hope that's given you sort of a good summary and an introduction to how Maidwell Group work and how we can add benefit, how we can alleviate that stress and make the process as enjoyable as possible. Because after all, purchasing an investment property should be exciting. So that's what we're here to do. But I encourage you to get in touch with us through Jarryd and the team at Carrick, and I'd gladly have a one-on-one with you and go through your circumstances and see how we can help you.
Thank you, Sophia. Thanks, and Jonny as well. That was very, very informative, and I like the detail that you went into this, Sophia, with the different examples. Those are usually where most of the questions come in as well. How does that work? What does it look like by means of LTVs and so on? A number of questions have come through. I think we've got time for just a couple quickly. But before I go through those, just as a side note for everyone on today, thank you very much for joining. We have a large number of people on the webinar today, and we, of course, you're all, please feel free to reach out to either myself or your Carrick representative. But at the same time, we'll be reaching out to you as well to see if you have any additional questions, because we have so many to go through. And if you would like us to sort of prioritize you as much as we can, please type yes in the chat box on the right-hand side. Then we'll know, we'll try and push you up the list slightly there. But just a quick couple of questions. Jonny, you mentioned the Grand Exchange, the property in Bracknell. May completion, not much time to go, of course. So you mentioned, I think as well, now is really the time to sort of start the process. I can start it off by means of the best thing to do, I believe, for all of our clients is have that one-to-one consultation. Myself, Jonny, and Sophia are all here to facilitate that. But what does that look like then, Jonny, from a processing point of view? Sort of time frames. Sophia, do you get involved from day one? When do you come in from a mortgage side? Maybe just a little outline about that.
So yeah, good point and good question. The process would be as follows. So we'd book in a one-to-one meeting with myself and also with Sophia, because now Sophia will be able to give an indication of what kind of options relevant to that development, relevant to that unit that the client is going to have. My conversation, obviously selecting the unit and going down that route, The process works as follows. The initial process is to reserve a property. So to reserve a unit within that development, we obviously have an allocation, and to make one of those yours, as it were, you reserve by paying £2,500. So that is either sent to the UK bank account of the developer, or it's done via credit card over a payment link. Now, important to mention, because we are working with the developer, that's not a fee, that's not an extra fee, it's from the value of the property. It's just a commitment to be able to secure the unit. At the same time, you would do a reservation form, and you fill out your personal details. It's administrative, and on that form there'll be a panel of lawyers, a panel of solicitors that we can recommend. You can use whoever you like. If you have your own solicitor, I would make my own recommendation for you, but you tick the box of one of those lawyers. Once that process is done and that unit is secured and you know that you've reserved it, you will then be put in touch with your lawyer immediately, and they will send you the contract, and you will go through that process of understanding it. Remember, they're working on your behalf, not on our behalf. So you have 28 days from that point to pay 20% minus the 2,500 that you'd already paid. So it's a 20% deposit, and then nothing else until completion. At the same time, you'd be having a conversation with Sophia, who would be perhaps starting already. I think Sophia is already starting mortgages for this development for the Grand Exchange, because she's got a lot of clients in there. So you would start that process straight away in sort of conjunction with that exchange process with the 20%. So that enables you obviously to see what you're going to achieve from an LTV perspective. So let's say, as an example, you achieve a 70% mortgage. Sophia tells you that's what your maximum is, and that's what you want. You would still only pay the 20% in 28 days. And then in May next year, when the property completes, the bank pays the 70% and you pay another 10% at that point. So that's how the process works. 20% down exchange and 80% on completion.
Perfect, Jonny. Thank you. I realized I was on mute there just before I started talking. So that process is very involved, but of course very seamless in this case. With the both of you, I think from the start of that first meeting, everything runs through very smoothly. It's no passing on information to someone on the outside from the mortgage point of view, I suppose. But just a quick one for you, Sophia, as well. A lot of, or I think the vast majority of attendees today are from Nigeria. What would you say is the sort of maximum loan to value percentage that clients in Nigeria are realizing at the moment, if, let's say, this is their first time purchase, if they have not got assets in the UK currently, just out of interest sake?
Yeah, had you had asked me this last week, I would have said it was about 70% loan to value, 65% loan to value. But as of yesterday, there are in fact lenders that are now going up to 80% loan to value for Nigerian clients in Nigeria, whether you are even self-employed, you don't have a footprint in the UK, you don't even have a UK bank account. There are lenders that can now go up to 80% loan to value. I in fact just presented terms to a client that Jonny and I are working on together. Client is in fact actually also based in Africa, but is a politically exposed person. So again, even those who are slightly higher risk, we can certainly help. So yeah, there's a solution for everyone.
That must be the highest it's been in a very long time. So a very good time. I would say from an argument point of view for this kind of development and timing. It's a fantastic development looks-wise, and where it is situated, of course, from a location point of view. But ultimately, it's a great product. But at the same time, that service, I think, is what's really going to make the difference from beginning to end, and it completes very, very soon. So all in all, I think a fantastic opportunity. I think that's it for time today, guys. The other questions that have come through, we will address on a one-to-one basis. We will reach out and make sure that everyone has the information that they would like. So everyone who did attend, thank you very much again for taking time out of your day. Jonny and Sophia, thank you very much to the both of you. Really appreciate your time and all the efforts and information that you've put in. And as I said, we'll be reaching out to our clients that did attend, and anyone else out there, feel free to reach out to us, and we can set up that first consultation and take it from there. So thanks very much, everyone, and take care. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks, Jarryd.
much.